In this video, we will show you how to install this upgraded tow mirror on this Ford Expedition. You'll have one of these mounted to each of your front doors. Let's get into it. Okay friend, let's get started on the replacement of our outside mirror. To do that, we're going to have to remove the inside door panel. As you make your way along the outside of the door panel, in this area, you're going to find that you have a small plastic cap. We need to dislodge this. Under that cap, you're going to find a Phillips head screw. We'll remove that. A thorough inspection of all hardware as we continue on. Now we're moving along the bottom of the door panel. In this area, you're going to find two 7mm mounting bolts. Remove the pair. Now we can move up to inside of the grab handle. If you are looking inside this area, you're going to find a small plastic trap door. We'll use an angled pick to break this free. You're going to find that there's two little areas that you should be able to get in between and gently pry up. Once you have that lifted, that exposes two 7mm mounting bolts. Remove the pair. Let's get that first one. Just use a magnet. Now we'll move from here inside of the inside door handle. There's another plastic trap door. We'll be using our pick to break this free. And pop that out of there. That exposes our 7mm mounting bolt in this area. Now we're going to remove the inside door handle protective bezel. I'm just going to use a plastic trim tool, try to make my way in between this edge here and gently pry out along the bottom. Up along the top, you're going to find that there's two small locking ears that we'll also have to dislodge. For those, I'm going to be using a small pocket screwdriver. Try to get in between here. There we are. Now, as far as the tabs that you're supposed to pull out, there's going to be three. One, two, and then there should be a third one pretty much up in here. You really can't see any of them, but we'll just gently start working this out of position. As soon as you have the bottom done, we're making our way up towards the top next. As I mentioned, there's going to be two locking tabs. You can use a small pick. I'm just using this screwdriver. I want to gently flex, find the tab, and then pull it out of place. There should be one here as well. This one looks like it's missing for some reason. I'll just turn this around so you can have a quick look at what we had. Locking tabs, and then up along the top, that's the area for the two. Now that we've removed that bezel, let's follow the door panel all the way up to the upper corner. We're using our plastic trim tool. We're going to pop this out of place. It can only go so far. There we are. Now that we have that area broken free, the next thing we have to do is take hold of the door panel. We're going to lift it straight up, and then we'll start pulling it away. Keep in mind, you can't go very far. We do have electrical wiring harnesses leading to the back side of our switch panel. Now I've lifted the door panel and spun it so we can have a close look along the back side of our window and door lock switch area. Let's start disconnecting our electrical connectors. We have our green connector. Squeeze in the locking tab, disconnect it. As you continue on, inspect each one of these for corrosion. If you see any, it will need to be taken care of. Simple tab right on the side there. We've got one more connector down on the bottom. It's the white connector. Now we're just going to want to follow this electrical wiring harness over towards the door next. There's our locking tab. Just press that in and disconnect this. Set the door panel aside. The door panel's out of the way. We're focusing along this upper corner first. Remove your vapor barrier. Any of this black tape that you can see here is butyl tape. It's extremely sticky and it'll ruin your clothing. Just go ahead and pull these out of the way. Stick that on there. We will be reusing these panels. Just go ahead and set that aside for now. Now with that out of place, we can see our three 11mm mounting nuts. We're not dealing with those yet. You can see that we do have two electrical wiring harnesses that lead down in this area. One of those is for the mirror. The other one is for your security keypad. We'll just go ahead and carefully start pulling this plastic away so we can gain access to our black electrical connector. This is the only one that we need to disconnect in this area. To disconnect the black connector, we just want to squeeze in on the locking tab, and you should be able to lift it up and out of position. a quick inspection for corrosion, and we'll continue on with our mounting nuts. Now I've got my 11mm. I also have a magnet handy. Just carefully try to remove this without dropping it inside the door. You can use our magnet if necessary. The next bottom one here. For our last mounting nut, we want to make sure we're holding onto the mirror so it cannot fall away from the door. Let's start pulling this away from the door. We'll start by pulling the bottom away first. Just gently start rocking it out of position. Now we'll have to lower it. Along the top, it does actually have a small hooked area. Let's continue removing that wiring harness from the door now. Slide it right out of that port if possible. Now I'm going to use some glass cleaner directly on a clean rag, and we'll wipe down the mounting surface. We'll give it a close inspection to make sure nothing's rotted, weak, or damaged in any way. Obviously, this is your vehicle. You can clean it to your liking. Now we can prepare our brand new mirror for installation. Now we have it on the bench, and we're going to be focusing on our electrical wiring harness. On the wiring harness which is attached to the mirror, you're going to find that you have 2 loose wires. That's because this mirror can work for different generations of this vehicle. The vehicle that we're working on is between the years 2007 and 2017, so we're going to set up this wiring harness accordingly. Now the first thing we need to do to set this up is remove this red plastic lock. It goes across the entire thing. It's fairly easy to remove using a small pick or even a small pocket screwdriver. Make your way underneath this edge and pull it out of place. We'll just give that a quick inspection and we're going to set that aside temporarily. Now, if you were looking in here, you can see a whole bunch of shiny ends. These are the ends to each one of your wires. We're going to have to look from the back side next. Now, it's important to make sure that you have your locking tab facing up for the orientation of this. Now, what we need to do is start with our black and white wire. With the locking tab facing up, we're going to have the black and white wire inside of the second port. We have the first one here. As we move over, the next port is the one we're aiming for. This wire is going to slide directly in, but it does need to be in the proper orientation so it'll lock in. Let's just have a quick look at the wire end. Now, if you were looking along this area, this is where you can see a raised ridge. It's essentially a locking tab. As I go to spin this, you're going to find that it's essentially just flat. We want to have that raised ridge facing up towards our locking tab. So with that said, I've got the wire in the proper orientation, I'm aligning it with the second port, and I'm going to gently start pressing it in. If it feels like it's binding in any way, you might be caught on something, so of course you want to double check to make sure it's going to be properly seated. Once it is aligned, it should slide in fairly easily. Press it in as far as you can until it's completely bottomed out. We can have a quick peek at the other side, and I can see that tab is all the way at the very end of the electrical connector. Let's move along to our next wire. Now looking from the back side, we're going with the green and purple wire next. The green and purple wire is going to go in the same orientation, but it's going to go on the top outside corner, all the way as far out as possible, on the same side as that locking tab. We'll just double check our wire to make sure we do have the locking tab facing up the way it needs to be, and we'll slide this into position. Just double check, I can see that it is facing in the proper direction. I'm pressing it in, minimal resistance here. It slid in perfectly. On the connector end, I can see that it's protruding out where it needs to be. We'll hold pressure and reinstall our red locking tab. For that, just go ahead and line it up and press it in. Listen for an audible click and give it a light tug, confirming it's properly secured. Let's get this over to the vehicle. Now over at the vehicle, we're going to start with our electrical connector. That just goes through the circular port in the door. We'll bring it all the way down through the rectangular port on the inside. Along the top of this mirror, we also have that small hooked area, so we're coming in low. We'll pivot this in, and then align the rest of our hardware with its mounting ports as well. We're holding this in position. I'm just going to go ahead and start my mounting nut onto my socket. The new mounting nuts are 10mm mounting nuts. Once you have one of the upper mounting nuts in place, you should be able to release the mirror, and we'll continue on to the other two. Start it on, let's snug them up. The torque for the original mirrors is 80 inch-pounds. These mirrors are larger, so I'm torquing these mounting nuts to 100 inch-pounds. Now with your mirror, it came with a specialty adapter. So we're going to connect that. Go ahead and give it a little tug, make sure it's properly secured. I like to tuck any wiring I can inside of the door. So if you have any slack that you want to take care of, you should be able to just bring that right inside there, and we'll continue on at the far end. Go ahead and line that up, press it in, listen for a click from that. A light tug, make sure it's secure. Now with this tucked inside here, obviously if we're driving down the road, we don't want to be listening to this moving around. I like to use a wire tie, holding it still on the inside of the door. So all we need to do here is just go ahead and pull this wiring harness out of place. You can use a trim tool. Typically you should be able to just pull it right out. I'm going to use that same port. I have a wire tie that I've curved the end. I'm going to bring it through this oval port, around my wiring harness on the inside, and then through this rectangular port, locking it in position. Now I can see my wiring harness inside there. We'll just make sure we are actually going around the wiring. There we are. As far as that wiring harness, we like to make sure that it's tucked over as far as possible behind the door, not necessarily behind this area. When we slide the door panel in place, we do not want to catch on this wiring harness. Just go ahead and press it over and lock it down. We'll trim off any excess to that wire tie and we can continue on. Start getting our vapor barrier in place. Just go ahead and press that in. We want to make sure that this rectangular port does align with its corresponding area. We have that on there. Let's continue on to the next panel. We'll just align our ports. Press it on. One last quick inspection in this area and we can reinstall our door panel. Of course, we're going to start with our electrical wire connectors first. We'll start with the door speaker wiring harness. Just go ahead and line that up, press it into position. Listen for a click from that. Start bringing this up. It's time for the rest of our wire connectors. Start getting these in place. Obviously, we'll have to pivot the door panel as necessary to gain access as needed. Let's get our next two in place. Green one. Now we're bringing the door panel into place. We're paying attention to each one of our door hooks in comparison to their slots on the door. And then of course we also do want to pay attention to our door lock knob as well. That's going to go through the port along the top of the door panel. Start bringing this over. I'm attempting to get my door lock knob inside of its port first so we can start bringing this in. We're aligning the hooks and then we're going to press it down. We need to make sure everything's properly seated all the way around before we continue on. Now that we have it slid down, we're paying attention in the upper corner. This should be aligned. Let's tap it in. Now it's time for the mounting bolts. I'm starting all the way down along the bottom. We have our two short 7mm mounting bolts. Let's make our way along the top, outside of the door panel next. Time for the Phillips head screw. We're making our way into the grab handle next. Just try to get this first screw in place. Obviously we have to hold that trapdoor out of place. Now up behind the inside handle, of course we're going to install our bezel. Reach through the bezel, pull the handle, and we'll rest this in place. We're trying to align all of our locking tabs and we'll press this in. There we are. Make sure it's seated and continue on with your 7mm bolt directly in the center. After that, you can install your protective cover as well. Now, as far as that protective cover, we have a locating tab, which is essentially a pivot point, and on the opposite side is the locking tab. The locking tab will be on what would be the forward side, and the locating tab's on the rearward side. So let's go ahead and rest this in, and we'll pivot it into the locked position. Okay, friend, we finished the installation of our driver's side mirror. The next thing we need to do is test the functionality and aim it as necessary. For that, we're down at the mirror switch. We'll pivot this counterclockwise towards the driver's side mirror. Now we can make our adjustments as necessary, left and right, up and down. Once you have it set to where you need, go ahead and take your vehicle for a road test. Thanks for watching.